I grew up lower middle class in America. My dad was a blue collar worker as a mailman for 40 years in the same job. And my mom was a part time visiting nurse who took care of elderly people. And back then, that was enough because they were able to take me and my brother out of a rough neighborhood growing up into a middle class area, buy a 3 bed, 2.5 bath, single family home, raise 2 kids, and live a stable life. I can't complain. I had a pretty good childhood. But here's the problem. That same exact life today in America doesn't exist. It just doesn't work anymore. Today, a full-time blue-collar worker, such as a mailman and a part-time visiting nurse, can barely afford the rent, let alone buy a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, single-family home in a nice area, raise a family of 4 with 2 children and 2 pets, or have any real sense of stability. The middle class in America isn't just struggling anymore. It's completely disappearing if it hasn't already. And in this video, I'm going to show you the shift that woke me up, why I think staying in the West or in America is a losing game, especially if you are a man, and why leaving America isn't crazy anymore. It's actually one of the best, smartest decisions that you can make as a man moving forward, especially within these next 5 to 10 years. By the way, if you're new here, my name's Alex. I left the US back in 2022 and created an ideal life setup here in South America. I did that through building location independent income, and now I help other men do the same. So let's dive into the video. So the shift that woke me up personally was just watching some of my friends move outside of not only my hometown, but also my home state of Massachusetts to different locations across the country and even doing some traveling outside the country, right? Watching them do it's really what woke me up. So just to give you some examples, Eric moved to Austin, Texas, never left. Lewis moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, and he's still there as well. We have Brendan, who moved to LA, and then now he's in Miami, right? But it wasn't until Adam. Adam is really the one that caused me to really shift my thinking, not just moving outside of my hometown or my home state, but outside of the country. See, Adam moved to Miami. We had a moment in Revere, Massachusetts. He had a studio apartment overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. And he was telling me about his travels. He was in the process of moving outside of the Boston area to Miami, but he was traveling to Colombia, like he was in Cartagena for some time, telling me about his stories there. And he was already in remote sales. So that's really what got me the idea to start thinking about earning location independent income and start traveling, right? And start seeing what else is out there. Because my life in Boston, which I was living just outside of Boston at the time, wasn't ideal. So my reasons for wanting to leave America, really the goal was to explore the world, to have location independent income. The one thing that I always wanted for myself was to be able to tell myself that I can be anywhere in the world at any time for as long as I want. That was always a dream of mine. But the problem, the big problem was I was stuck, and many of you watching this might be in the same position today. I was stuck in a location-dependent job. At the time, I was renting apartments and managing some apartments in the Boston area, more specifically in East Boston, if you guys are familiar with that area. I was dealing with traffic every day. I was dealing with shitty Boston weather. We only get a few months out of the year. That's nice. Most of it's cold, and we get snow, and it's just not my ideal kind of weather that I enjoy being in now that I've experienced different types. Obviously, that has a super high cost of living. Rents are out of control. Food, eating out's out of control. Inflation's out of control. Taxes there. We pay state taxes. We pay Fed taxes. I was living with a roommate for a couple of years. All right. A roommate that I found on Craigslist. We weren't really that cool, to be honest with you. We really didn't see eye to eye. The main reason that I moved there was because it was really close to the area that I worked in, which was East Boston. I moved to the 2 bedroom apartment was in Winthrop, which is adjacent to East Boston. So it was a really easy commute for me each day to show apartments and to manage some of the apartments. But eventually he moved his girlfriend in, and I couldn't take that. So I moved into my own garden level apartment, which was still, pretty expensive at the time. I think that apartment was going for $1,600 a month. But since I was in the game, I was in the real estate game, especially the rental game. I got that for a much better deal than $1,600 because I was always stressed out with, the cost of living, the inflation, also trying to transition into location independent work. Like my dating life was mediocre at the time. I was seeing someone. I was seeing a couple of people, actually, a couple women, but no one that, I was crazy about, my social life was pretty average as well. I was a guy in his 30s. Most of my friends pretty much have all these guys that I showed you here. Akeem being my closest friend, best man at his wedding. He has 3 kids, all girls, right? He's a busy guy. Lewis has a kid. Eric has a couple kids. I'm the only one out of my close group of five like close friends that doesn't have kids, right? So being a guy in his 30s, friends that have their families, their children, it's a little tougher to hang out with your buddies one on one and just talk real stuff. And in the Boston area, it's also pretty tough to make new friends, right? Because most people are in that situation. They have their families, they have their close friends that they grew up with, maybe since high school or even younger. Overall, I was ready for a change. Right. I knew that there had to be a better quality of life somewhere else for me as a man in his 30s. So the solution was to earn remote income online. Right. I knew that just doing a bunch of research, watching other YouTube videos, watching other people travel around South America, even Mexico, even Central America, DR, Puerto Rico, even though Puerto Rico has skyrocketed in prices as well. But I knew that even just $2,000 to $5,000 USD was enough. It was enough to live a good life. It was enough to travel around the world, parts of South America. If I wanted to go to Eastern Europe or Southeast Asia or parts of Africa, that was enough of an income to live a much better quality of life than staying in Boston, which is an expensive city, paying $4,000 to $5,000 a month just to really survive. So I tried many different ways to earn online income. I mean, you name it. I've tried YouTube, I've tried Twitter, I've tried affiliate marketing, I've tried consultant, Kindle book publishing. But eventually I stumbled across remote sales. And because of my background in real estate, because I always had to hunt for my own deals, right? I was commission only. I was really since the age of 19. I started in life insurance sales at 19 with a company that was a top 10 internship at the time. So all that experience really helped me to stumble across remote sales. And within 3 months, I started earning at least 5K per month. So that was really my ticket out. And as a result, the way that I moved abroad, the way that I left was I was in an apartment lease. I told you I was in a garden level apartment, and I let that lease expire. I sold all my books, which was really my prized possessions, were my physical books. I still miss to this day having, physical books. I still travel. I have my Kindle, but I sold all my books. I sold my car lease at the time. This was in 2022, like early 2022. Cars were actually a valuable asset. So even though I was leasing a car at the time, it was a basic Nissan Sentra. After negotiating, they actually gave me a few $1,000s for the car, which to me was a huge help. And with my remote income, with the savings that I had in place, I booked a one-way ticket to Medellin, Colombia. I told my close friends that I was leaving for some time. I wasn't sold on leaving forever. I just wanted to slow travel and really experience the world and really experience other cultures and other countries. And thanks to my friend Adam, he had already connected me with some people that were in Medellin. So I already had a small network there in place. So my first place was Medellin, Colombia. I lived in Medellin for about 6 months while also visiting places like Santa Marta, Rio Negro, just outside the city of Medellin. And that's when I caught the travel bug, right? That's when I was like, all right, I can either stay in Medellin long term and, live a pretty good life here. A lot of people, when they go to Medellin, they stay in Medellin because they already have the network. Maybe they're dating some girl that they really like, and that's what keeps them there. And the weather there is perfect. So there's a lot of reasons why a lot of people stay in Medellin. But I knew for me personally, I was always a curious person. I wanted to see what else was out there. So the next country I went to was Mexico, right? I lived in Mexico City, Oaxaca, Puebla, Guadalajara. 6 months in total in Mexico, and decided that Guadalajara was probably my favorite city in Mexico. But even after that, I was like, okay, let's go back to Colombia. I lived in Medellin for a few months. I said, Santa Marta, Rio Negro, but now I wanted to check out other major cities in Colombia. So I went to Cali, Colombia. I didn't plan on staying in Cali for 6 months, but I did. I stayed for about 5.5 months, a little under 6 months in Cali, Colombia. Really enjoyed my time there. I even met a special girl there that I dated the entire time. But still, I knew that Cali, Colombia wasn't probably going to be it for me. So I kept traveling. I went to Lima, Peru, Guatemala City, Asuncion, Paraguay for over a year. I visited Buenos Aires. And meanwhile, while doing all this traveling and exploring, which I was enjoying, I was having the time of my life. I started building a YouTube personal brand, documenting everything that I learned about, leaving America and building an ideal life setup in South America, and everything that I've learned along the way, as far as what are the best cities, what makes the city great, what makes the city not so great, what are some logistics you might want to know about, what is dating culture like, what is the cost of living in each of these places, things like that. I started documenting really a little late. I started documenting, I think it's only been a little over a year since I've had this YouTube channel. I started last year in 2025, and I started traveling in October 2022. So I should have started this much sooner, but I'm really glad that I did start documenting. And it's been one of the best decisions that I've made, right? The 4 best decisions I've made up to this point are, number one, internationalizing my life. So that means getting a second residency. For some of you, it could be getting a second residency or a passport, basically so that you're not locked into one single country that owns and controls every area of your life. And so that you have other options and backup plans in case America keeps getting worse, which I predict that it will. The second best decision was building a YouTube personal brand. Right? Not only is it providing me additional income, but it's actually allowing me to express myself. It's allowing me to leave a legacy down the road. When I'm 60, 70, 80 years old, I can look back on this, as far as fond memories, as far as what I was talking about, what I was sharing, if I have kids someday, they can watch this too. So it's a cool little legacy thing that I can leave behind. And it's also a great way to make new friends and build a network and have other creators that you can meet. There's a ton of perks that have come from that. But the biggest one for me, I think, is going to be creating sovereign income. Sovereign income to me, guys, is earning income that it's not only location independent, it's not only scalable, but it's also something that you enjoy doing, something that you can see yourself doing until you're 60, 70, 80 years old or plus. Topics that you enjoy talking about, that you know a lot about. To me, that's earning sovereign income, something that you enjoy and you're earning money from it. And that gives you time freedom. If I want to take 10 days off every 3 months, I could do that. If I want to work 4 days a week, there's no one else can decide that but me, right? There's no boss. And then the third best decision I've made is not getting married or having kids too young, because it's what's allowed me to travel. It's what's allowed me to take the risks that I've taken in life, especially in America. If you guys get married in America, man, the laws are just not in your favor. And then the fourth best decision that I made is getting clear on my values and what I wanted out of life. Really sitting down and thinking about what is it that I want in the future, next 5, 10, 15, 20 years even. What do I want my ideal life to look like? And how do I reverse engineer that back to today? What do I need to do today to live that life in the future? So far, we've been over my reasons for leaving, the problem that I had at the time that maybe a lot of you are having right now, as far as being stuck in a location-dependent job and, the city that you're in that you're not happy with, what the result looks like once you solve the problem and have the solution. And now I'm going to talk about some benefits that I've experienced because of moving abroad, right? I told you about my life back in Boston a little bit. Now I have time, guys. I have so much more time to work on my passion projects, such as this YouTube personal brand channel. Whereas before, I'd have to work, at least probably 50, 60 hours a week just to maintain my lifestyle there. So here I work a lot less hours. I also work from home. I don't have to commute, right? Which saves me a lot more time as well. So being able to work on my passion project is huge. I also have time for hobbies now, right? Boxing, paddle. I recently got into paddle. Paddle is kind of like sort of like tennis, but it's very popular here in South America, specifically in Asunción, Paraguay, and in Argentina, and even Medellin now. I have time to take care of my health, right? I'm stretching every single day. I'm doing calisthenics at least 4 days a week. It's just been a game changer in terms of finding time for me, right? Not just hobbies, but health, time for me, my passion projects, my health, my hobbies. This is huge. I also have less financial stress, right? When you have a lower cost of living, which is 1/3 of the cost, that alone right there is a game changer. All right, if you're a guy who's retiring soon, if you're relying on a certain pension or a fixed income or Social Security, this is probably your number one thing. This is probably your number one reason to live a higher quality of life. But even if you're someone in your 30s or your 20s or your 40s, right, you're still building, you're still growing. This gives you the opportunity to not worry about the expenses. You can go out to eat every day, right? You can pay for Ubers every day. You can date as much as you want. You can go out with your friends and dinners as much as you want. And you'll still be able to build savings off a modest income, right? If you're someone who's in debt right now or someone who has little in savings, making this move alone is what's going to cause you to build savings. Because if you're spending 1/3 of what you're spending in your home country, in your home city, get rid of your car. For me, I was paying over $1,000 a month, about $1,000 a month for a Nissan Sentra, leasing it, and then rent, and you're probably looking at least 25, you're looking at least 2,000 to 3,000 a month. Imagine if that 2 to 3K per month was going straight to savings and straight to paying off your debt. And not only that, you're paying less taxes when you live outside the state. So there's something called the foreign earned income tax exclusion, where if you're outside the states for more than 330 days as an American, you no longer have to pay Fed tax up to about $132,000 a year at the time of this recording. And then on top of that, if you're in a state that, we don't pay state taxes, such as a New Hampshire or a Florida or a Texas or a South Dakota, which is where I'm going to transfer my residency from now on. Now you don't have to worry about state taxes either. Obviously talk to a tax professional about this stuff, but you're saving money all across the board. You're paying less taxes. You're living in a place that's 1/3 the cost of what you're used to, which allows you to build savings and pay off debts and have less financial stress. This alone is huge, guys. Another benefit is I've met more like-minded guys who are my age, guys in their 30s, guys in their 20s, guys in their 40s, even retired guys. We all think alike. We value freedom. We value sovereignty. We're more entrepreneurial minded. Remember how I was telling you about, my friends having kids and families and tougher to hang out and find one-on-one time, just to kind of, shoot the shit or talk about real life things. Once you move abroad to a place like South America, you're meeting guys that are in the same position as you. You know, they also don't have kids, or maybe they have kids, but they're grown and they're also single or dating actively or have girlfriends, right? You're in a similar position in life, which allows you to connect instantly, right? As soon as you see someone on an elevator or anywhere really, you already have something in common. You both left your home country, your home city to explore, to travel, to move abroad. So it's a lot easier to make lifelong friendships than it is living in your hometown, your home state, in my opinion. I'm also in perfect year-round weather. The past 4 years, I have not experienced any snow. I have not experienced any cold weather. Although this might change this year because I do see myself staying in Asuncion for an entire year this time. And in Asuncion around June and July, it gets probably like in the 50s, somewhere around there, which isn't bad at all. But I've been in perfect year-round sunny weather for the past 4 years, and that alone has been a game changer. My dating life has skyrocketed, not because I'm this completely different person, even though I am a completely different person than I was 4 years ago. But I'd say it's more because I'm happier, right? I'm more confident in my lifestyle and who I am. I have an edge as a foreigner. I'm someone who speaks good Spanish. I'm exotic. I'm from a different place. I've traveled to different places, and I'm in better shape. I'm working out consistently. I'm taking care of myself, my health, my mind. I have good hobbies. I have good friends. All this stuff makes you a more valuable asset in the dating market. And not to mention that I've been on a lot of dates, guys. So I have a lot more experience now as well because I have time for it. And like I said earlier, when you're spending 1/3 the cost, now you can spend as much as you want. You can pay for girls' Ubers back and forth. You can pay for everything. You don't have to worry about how much stuff costs. Now, obviously, there's limits to things, but these are reasons why you have guys, who have YouTube channels that just talk about dating in South America or somewhere abroad, right? Because it's true. I mean, your dating life does level up automatically. I'm also living in, very nice apartments. I told you I was living in a garden level apartment, that's worth $1,600 a month. I was paying about $1,250 because I got a good deal on it. But guys, I'm living in much nicer apartments than that. Right now, I'm on the top floor. I have a 1-bedroom. I have a private terrace. It's a really good size. I do calisthenics out there. Sun rises each morning right here. I'm paying less than $700 a month for this place, everything included. I live in one of the best areas in the entire city. Everything's walkable within 5-10 minutes. I have coffee shops, grocery stores, bars, restaurants, whatever you need, I have it. If I do want to go outside my area, Ubers are like $2 to $3 per ride. We're talking about across the board quality of life going up. And now I also have residency, cedula, bank accounts in another country as well set up. So those have been some of the benefits of moving abroad. Now, if you're someone who stays in the West, and I'm speaking to you men, because I think you men have the most upside when it comes to leaving the West and increasing your quality of life by doing so. If you stay in the West, you're going to experience decreasing purchasing power, the opposite, right? Whatever you're spending now, it's only going to get more expensive. Inflation is going to keep going up. Cost of living is going to keep rising. Taxes are going to keep going up as well as the national debt keeps rising, right? They're probably going to require more and more taxes. You're going to look at universal basic income, which that's going to come from your taxes. So if you're someone who values freedom and sovereignty, if you're entrepreneurial, you're just going to keep being squeezed more and more and more. And you're also surrounded by less like-minded people. You're probably going to be surrounded by more and more woke people. People who don't value freedom and sovereignty. They want handouts. They want the government to give them money. They're not entrepreneurial minded. They're more, let me just get my stable 9 to 5 and, be comfortable, which those people are screwed again, because of rising taxes, rising inflation, high cost of living. And that's you're screwed, man. You're also going to risk losing travel privileges because the USA is not what it once was. All right. Countries such as Brazil, they're not as fond of USA passports anymore. They're actually requiring more restrictions, right? And especially as the US keeps doing what they're doing to other countries, right? And really invading. And, that's not a good look for the rest of the world. They're probably not going to be as fond, like I said, of the US passport as much. So now it's becoming more and more important to get a second passport as well, which is what I'm working on. You also risk being unable to afford getting an easy residencies, which are still available today, guys. I got Paraguay residency, cedula bank account for less than $2,000. That's not going to exist forever. I think after this year, good luck, right? I predict that very soon you'll have to be at least a millionaire to start being able to get residencies or passports because these countries are going to get more and more strict as more and more people keep applying for their residencies. So as of now, you still have an opportunity. And if you want to work with my residency specialist and have everything done for about $2,000 or less, links in the description, check it out. I also think that USA and other Western countries are becoming more authoritarian, meaning there's more surveillance, there's more controlling, there's more wanting to see what you're spending on. They just want to know everything that you're doing, which for me, I'm trying to escape that system. And soon with, new digital IDs coming out, like who knows how much control they're going to have over you in the next 5 to 10 years even. I also think that raising a family is super expensive and very difficult if you stay in America. I don't know how people do it. Like if you earn less than $100K a year, how are you able to afford children? Like raising children, you got to buy clothes, foods, diapers. All these things are super expensive. Even just daycare, you're spending a few $1,000s depending on how many kids you have, right? If you want to hire nannies, that's going to be impossible for you unless you're very rich. But here in South America, all this stuff is very doable. If I want to have kids, which I do plan on having kids someday, I'm leaning more towards that. 2, 3 kids couple nannies full time, maybe a nighttime nanny on top of that, I'm spending less than $1,000 a month, give or take. Don't quote me on that, but it's definitely doable. You don't have to be a rich person. You don't have to be super rich or wealthy to afford nannies or to have a lot of help when it comes to raising children. I also think that America is a very difficult dating market if you're a man, right? You're dealing with a whole culture of girl bosses, women who want to compete with you versus complement your life. I'm seeing women who want to wait until their 30s or 40s to consider having a family, having children for the first time. They're waiting more and more. And marriage and family courts, guys, these systems are meant to screw you. These are systems that I want no part of. There's also political tension, civil unrest. You're basically playing a losing game that keeps going downhill each and every year. And just about every guy that I've met in South America, or I've been in Paraguay for about 16 months now, is happy with their decision as far as leaving their home country. A lot of Australians, a lot of Europeans, people from UK, people from Canada, a lot of them from Canada, US, are happy with their decision because of the quality of life that they now experience. A few cases, I think, of people going back usually have to do with them running out of money because they don't have location independent income. Or maybe it's just a huge culture shock because they don't speak the language at all. And it's just really tough for them to get around. And maybe they don't like dealing with the infrastructure. Someone who's less adaptable, that person's probably going to leave as well. As long as you're somewhat adaptable and you have location independent income or a good amount in savings, then you'll be fine. You will love the quality of life that you're going to experience out here. So the question is, do you think leaving the US is crazy? Or do you think it could be the best single decision that you'll make in the next 5 to 10 years, especially if you are a man? I know for me, it's been the single best decision that's impacted the quality of my life. And for most of you watching this, I think it will be for you too. So if you made it this far in the video, check out my Sovereign Creator community, guys. If you guys need help building location independent income, if building a YouTube personal brand interests you at all, then I'm launching that probably at the end of this month, if not the beginning of next month. Or if you just want to watch similar videos as to why I left the US and moved to South America, then check out the one I did over here, and I'll see you in the next one.